Welcome, everyone. Tonight is Tuesday evening, September 20th. I'm Glenda Carlin, and this is our weekly A Course in Miracles meeting. Welcome, Barbara, God. Welcome, Sally, God. Welcome, Nance, God. Welcome, Francis, God. Welcome, Leon, God. Welcome, Shaban, God. Welcome, Debbie, God. Now, there's been a transition in this because if you get down to the absolute, there's only God. That's the true oneness. So, but in the process of awakening, we first have to realize we're Christ or Buddha. We resist even that. And then you get to the point you realize it's only God. So that's why I now address you as God. But granted, of course, God is our creator, the origin of all things. But we have we're the same in every way, all kind of aspects of love, light. In the so-called dual world, we end up embodying all the aspects and virtues of God and Holy Spirit, which are love, light, gentleness, a quiet mind. We develop these aspects of our higher self. We unveil them. They've always been there. We just weren't aware of them due to the chatter that was going on. So welcome, Holy Son. Well, it's Gonzalo, God, welcome. And Glenda, God, welcome. So the first thing we'll do is invite in Holy Spirit, Jesus, Buddha, enlightened beings, ascended masters, be here. Help us, guide us with insights and what to do or say and to have fun. And this is a community here. We're a community of like-minded individuals. It's very, very powerful to get together with like-minded individuals. And we're going to meditate here in a second, because that joined mind, it has a synergy to it that makes it greater than your individual mind. This is calling on our higher Christ, Buddha, God mind in this meeting, and that's what happens when we're in this sangha or a community of like-minded people, when our intention is that way. And I know each of your intention is that, to remember what you are, what your brothers are, and what God is. So first is, in tonight's talk, it's going to talk about, Jesus talks about that the body is what the idol of ego is. So it usually is all contracted and tense. So before we meditate, and even what I do many times during the day, even if I'm not contracted or feeling anything but peaceful, I'll take a deep breath in, and on the out breath, I'm recognizing God. I'm acknowledging God's presence in that instant. And then on the exhale, saying, ah. So just breathing, if we pause, can be a holy moment. And every time you do that, you're remembering what you are, your brothers are, God is. It's huge. It's very powerful. So we're going to take 3 deep breaths in, and on the out breath, I want you to say, ah. So here's the first in breath from your belly, below your navel, a couple inches deep. You're taking a deep breath in, and on the out breath, you're saying, ah. Nobody hears, nobody cares. You're saying, ah, 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 ah. That ah is a seed syllable that is representative of God. And it's releasing and relaxing. Then take another deep breath in. And on the out breath, say, ah, 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 ah. Then another third breath in. And then exhale, saying, ah, ah, ah. It's hugely powerful to do this. And then also you can put your arms out to your shoulders and shake your arms, shake your head. It's called lion's roar or Christ or Buddha roar. You're shaking off obscurations, the day, the feelings of contraction. And you're just relaxing. And during meditation, You don't have to be like a wooden Buddha or wooden Christ. You can shift around in your seat. You can take one of these deep breaths and exhale and regather yourself. By taking that breath, you're clearing the screen of any, if you've wandered off with any thought, you're clearing the screen and you're coming back to center, to this stillness or pause between thoughts. So very powerful. You can do this as many times as you want during meditation. But now just be relaxed, and you can have your eyes open or closed. But I did this last week. Angela, I think it was Angela that recommended this meditation. As you all know, there's an arc of light in each of us, and that arc of light through meditation, practicing the truths in the course and parallel truths, like I practice Dzogchen Buddhism, and Jesus's advanced forgiveness. We're unveiling all these clouds and thoughts of judgment that are covering up that arc of light. But once the arc of light is released, then the great ray is a ray of life that connects you to eternity. I'm not making this up, this is for Jesus. So that ray of light comes in the top center of your head, straight down the middle of your body, and you see it anchor into the ground. So that light is there, but we're gonna, and above your head is a huge sun that is representative of God's source. Your source, the origin of all things. It's the sun, the light. In the dual world, that's a whole Course of Miracles, is getting you to believe you're the light of the world. And that light, because your body is an image in your mind, as your mind becomes illumined and awakened, the body is an image of the mind, the body will become illumined. It will radiate all this light, like a hologram. That's what you really are, is just a radiating light image of a form, but you're light. So we're going to take that sun that's above your head, but we're going to take the image of a sun and bring it to your heart area, to your heart. Put it inside that heart muscle, a sun, a brilliant sun. See that light radiating out? And that light's going out through every muscle, all the valves, everything out in your heart. And why this is important is through this lifetime, and if you believe in reincarnation, other lifetimes, doesn't matter if we do or we don't believe in reincarnation. In this lifetime, we've had our hearts broken, either from family, friends, children, loved ones, wives, husbands, partners, whatever the deal. Our heart is broken, has been broken, in that we've had a love for someone and that love has not turned out how we thought. And that stuff gets stored in the heart muscle. And in the Course of Miracles, it says it's either love or a call for love. But that love, that pain, and the delight and love of loving is the heart, centered in the heart chakra, the heart muscle. So having that light in there, you're shining that light all through your heart. And now I want you to take that light, that sun light, into picture veins and arteries, or they're going all through your form. Put that sunlight all in your veins and arteries, shining that light through that red flowing blood, and free it up, have it all free and flowing beautifully. And then take that sunlight into your bones, your bone marrow, where the red blood cells start from, the bone marrow. Just picture like your thigh bones. Those are huge depository of where the marrow makes your red blood cells that makes the blood that goes in and out of your heart, just like the sun. That great ray sunlight is going in and out of your heart all day, all night. But we're just not aware of it. We're actually just visualizing it through all your veins and arteries and your bone marrow, all the bones. That sun is going through all of that. So you're just visualizing that. And I pause here for a minute or so and just sit, if you can, sit in that light, or just be with that light, just be aware of that light. But if you can rest in it, that'd be huge. If you can just rest in it, visualize that sun is yellow sunlight, like yellow cake batter. That's what it's like. It's got a thickness, a consistency to it that you can rest in. Holy God light is what this is, that you're seeing radiate all through you. Now, as I talk, even the mind can wander. And that's part of this whole process of meditation, is to become aware of when the mind is off thinking about something else. It can have overt, huge transitions where it outright's thinking something huge, like, oh, that guy that cut me off in traffic, man, oh man, or something huge, or a big flood that occurred, or you thought about the war in your Ukraine, some huge overt thought it can jump off to, and you're off thinking about. Or it's called subtle mind wandering, where just teeny tiny little thoughts, just even the sound of my voice, ego's off thinking about that. There's subtle mind wandering and overt mind wandering. Either way, the purpose of meditation is for you to become mindful of what your mind's doing. And you're not going to push the thoughts away or attach to them. You just let them go. Let them come and let them go. That's the secret of this meditation, is letting thoughts come and go. Until 2 years ago, this October, I didn't understand this. I was trying to get the thoughts to stop, but that's not, that they'll never stop. Even when you're awakened and enlightened, and you already are, you're just not aware of it, the ego will not stop talking. But what happens is you're aware of it. And even if you agree with it for a moment, you let loose of it quicker. And you're quicker into your Christ, Buddha, God nature of using your hands, your speech, your ears, your body to speak from love, compassion, and empathy with your brothers and sisters, and even how you view politicians on TV. You embody God. So therefore, all your senses embody God, your speech, your smell, your sight, your hearing. You become God in all these senses. You have the virtues of heightened awareness of all these senses and are using them to help your brothers. You end up being more conscious when you're talking with a person. You're being there with them, and you resonate with them, and you have empathy and compassion, and a thought will come to you that you should say to your brother, and you just do it. So through meditation, you are learning to let go of these thoughts. Let them come and let them go. And when you recognize your mind has wandered, it's called the leash of mindfulness. You like a leash on a little puppy dog. You're pulling that puppy dog back to the center, back to the pooping paper, back to the center, the vertical axis, where the stillness, the gap between thoughts, the quietness, the pure light, invisible, clear light is here in this vertical axis here, straight, following the great ray, straight down the middle of your body is the vertical alignment. So I'll be quiet here a minute and just kind of rest in that light, merge with it, dissolve into it, rejoin with it. And when your mind wanders, and it will, you just bring it back. I was talking with a friend about this today. When I started meditating every day for an hour with that Dzogchen LA Dzogchen group a year ago, June, heck, I could barely be on 5 seconds. My mind was off wandering. So don't beat yourself up about this, The purpose of meditation is to soften, relax, and you're mastering your mind. You're bringing your mind back to this vertical stillness, the gap between thoughts. But it sure can't happen if you don't meditate. Then the egoic mind is running the show. And you'll find that when you meditate like this, letting thoughts come and go, then when you're walking around in the world and your spouse or loved ones or children, grandchildren, whomever, friends, acquaintances, neighbors, say something, you're not having that knee-jerk of pushing away or agreement with whatever they're saying. There's a pause. There's a quiet time where you're reflecting, or you're not the same. You have more time to consider, like Jesus says, choose which voice you're going to listen to, Holy Spirit or the voice of ego. So I'll pause here again for another minute or two, and just what I do, I kind of picture this invisible great ray coming down, straight down. And I know it's invisible light, so it can look like, that means it's dark, because that clear light is laying on top of that darkness. But even the darkness has light, is totally light as well. But that's why you see darkness, but it's no worry, because the clear light's right there, laying right there. And sometimes you may see colored light, and other times you'll have an experience of joining with a light. One thing I want to share is you will have hundreds, if not thousands, of these mystical experiences, and not to be off on a tangent, have an ego telling you, oh, I've made it, I'm done, I'm awakened. Granted, you may be. Some people can do this quicker. I was not that easy to do. But what happens, this, even when a person is awakened or enlightened, this is such a deep, deep, deep loving God. This is, you totally open, that the whole universe is your body. All beings are your heart, mind, and soul. I mean, you will accept the whole universe into that heart of yours that you're opening up, because that's in reality the deal. We each made up the universe. We projected it out there, and part of the awakening process is you're slowly bringing in all your brothers by loving them. You're bringing them back into your heart space, to the mind that we projected all this out of, the awakened, open mind, open heart. But Jesus says in the Course, bring in all your brothers, the unborn, those that have passed, and the unborn, ones that have passed, all of the brothers, all sentient beings, is who you're bringing back home to rest in your heart, in your God heart. So when you want, you can bring your attention back to this place, but you can always visualize this sun, which you really are, that's radiating through every one of your organs, through your whole form, and through your awakened, your Christ, Buddha, God mind that's here, not confined by a brain or a body. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here. And thank you, Angela, for bringing that meditation to mind. Now, where I got the topic for tonight's talk was this Dzogchen LA meditation group. There's a different person who leads it each day. And Nathan happened to lead group and talked about a thing called spiritual bypass. And I thought that was a unique way of putting it. And where he got it was from Lama Surya Das. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to ring our bell. That way, those that are really deep in meditation will come back. Oh, and we want to dedicate, I forgot, always want to dedicate the merit, which means the merit of any peace of mind we got from meditation, any loving feelings, any insights or truths that we recognize or realize. We give that all away to all sentient beings. We're not selfish with any of this. We want to help all our brothers wake up from the dream of separation from God. We're all in this together. We're all in this together, interlocked, interconnected by love and this sunlight of God. That's love is the glue that holds everything together, that dissolves the separation. And how you feel that glue is when ultimately you'll feel a union with another mind. And when that dissolving is love. Love is that dissolving in union. But anyway, so the topic was a spiritual bypass, and Lama Surya Das had given this word evidently in a workshop. Now, what Jesus says about it, so then I knew what it meant was, instead of overlooking our hidden hates and fears and secret sins, because the Course says that. In the Course in Miracles, Jesus says, bring your secret sins and hidden hates to Holy Spirit. And I'm going to read some different, well, this might be a good place to read. is page 288, chapter 14 in A Course in Miracles. Here's what Jesus says. The Holy Spirit asks of you, but this. Don't you love it? Every time Jesus will go, well, this is the only thing. This is the one thing. And then he'll tell you later, well, here's the other thing. Here's the one thing. He's just wanting to bring your attention that something's real important. The Holy Spirit asks of you, but this. Bring to him, capital H, him, every secret you have locked away from him. Open every door to him and bid him enter the darkness and lighten it away. At your request, he enters gladly. See, we got a request. That's again, you gotta ask him, come on in here and help me disperse this darkness. He brings the light to darkness if you make the darkness open to him. Now, I'm going to talk about what that means is, first, we got to recognize that we've got these secret sins and hidden hates. I'm going to ask you to journal, to ask Holy Spirit, help me, show me my hidden, because that means we've overlooked them. Ego's allowed us to deny it. And we've silently or unconsciously agreed to it, whatever. But the point is, we got to openly give it to Holy Spirit. He brings the light to darkness if you make the darkness open to him. But what you hide, he cannot look upon. He sees for you, and unless you look with him, he cannot see. The vision of Christ is not for him alone, but for him with you. See, he's asking you, when you call him in, he's looking at this with you. He's looking, that's called going to be this union of truth's going to result. Bring, therefore, all your dark and secret thoughts to him and look upon them with him. He holds the light. You can picture he's got the flashlight, right? Just beaming it on this, whatever hate, some politician you hate, or whomever that you don't have it acknowledged that you hate. And you, okay, he holds the light and you, the darkness. They cannot coexist when both of you together look on them. His judgment must prevail, and he will give it to you as you join your perception to his. So one of the first things is we can't deceive ourselves. And I recognize that along my path, you open up as much as you can along the way. And as you open up a childhood hate, I don't even know, or a job, employer, who knows? Ego is off judging everything. So you can bet every job we ever had, or whatever education teachers we had, ego was judging them. And what I've learned is, and experienced, these thoughts that go through the mind, if I'm not vigilant, I agree with one of them. And I'll agree with, oh yeah, that politician doesn't know what he's talking about. What a hateful person, and I'm off, agreeing with whatever thoughts in my mind. Until Jesus says we recognize by our feeling and our mood which voice we've listened to. Because at some point I'm going to recognize I'm not peaceful, or I feel uneasy or irritated, and I want to then choose again. And part of this process is first to identify the moods. Your feelings are what are really going to tell you which voice you've listened to. And then what I did, I asked myself, well, what was I thinking about before I had that feeling? And by opening up myself to what was I thinking before the feeling, that's invited in really Holy Spirit to help me. And I would identify then a person or a situation. And then once you have the person in the situation, you can even journal it, write it down, and write your feelings, what your judgment was about the situation or person. And then you got to ask yourself, do you really want to love that person? Do you really want to love the things you hate? Now, that Lama Surya Das in 2 or 3 different retreats I was in, he would say that. And I was irritated quite often. Oh, I recognized later I was irritated. In the beginning, ego even hid that. I wasn't even aware of that I was irritated. Can you love the things you hate? And that's when I recognized, well, I don't know, but I'm going to give it a try. And so I then asked Holy Spirit to help me see what my hidden hates were and secret sins. And so right off the bat, I wrote down a politician, a bug, an ant that bites me, and I get a blister, and just dumb stuff like having to pick up palm fronds and commenting about them when I was picking them up. These things are subtle. See, they're subtle stuff, but all of them get brought to Holy Spirit. So once I identified them, then I just started saying, I love you to the politician, and I love you to the ant. I love you, the palm frond, or whatever the judgment was. I just started saying, I love you. And I don't remember how long it took, but because my intention was pure enough, it didn't take that long. I wasn't fighting it, but this is also a process. So as you do this, you'll recognize if you're resisting loving a person, situation, or like these mass shootings, these people. We don't condone people's behaviors, but we love the Christ Buddha God that's in each of these people. And we never, ever put our body in harm's way, never, ever, as we practice these truths from A Course in Miracles and any whatever other parallel truths that you practice. So I finally felt love. And you know the feeling that you love, whether you love something or not. So, but it's also called faking it while making it. This is the practice. I've done it. Lama Surya Das talks about it. He did it when he was in his monastic retreats as a young person learning to meditate. That's because we've been visualizing darkness, agreeing with all these thoughts in our mind, many of them. And now we can visualize, we can imagine this light and visualize it. And we can say, I love you to things when we don't believe it, but ultimately you will believe this. I'm not kidding. This is transformative. And to awaken from the dream, this is part of the process, because you're ending up opening up your heart. And you end up being honest and not deceptive to your own self. It doesn't matter. No one needs to know this list. no, or none of this. This is your own private journaling, your own private purification process. And part of once they're written down and you're saying, I love you, I also practice advanced forgiveness. Almost forgot that. Boy, that's just second nature. Thinking of the person as spirit, not a body, not flesh. And so when I was writing this, I found two where Jesus talks about this thing about flesh. I thought it might be helpful for you. That is, everybody's in. Okay, Francis had to come back in. Good, Francis is back. Gonzalo's back. That happens. We sometimes, and the other last week, if there's a thunderstorm, things happen with the internet. We just try to come back in, and it's just another way to practice taking a deep breath and exhaling and gathering ourself, our mind and ourself as we try to connect back on the internet. Or if you're out driving, you know the drill. We are integrating this practice that we're talking about here. But this advanced forgiveness, where we look past the body to the spirit that a person is, this is found in chapter 20, section 6, paragraph 11, where we reason with ourselves. And I think reason and perception is in chapter 21. This is chapter 20, but Jesus is teaching us to reason with ourselves. And sometimes I'll even use my actual name. I'll go, now, Glenda, what were you thinking? We're not thinking that. And I'll go straight, acknowledging the spirit in the person. But see what I'm doing? I'm recognizing my darkness and in my own way, bringing it to the light, and then it's real quick thinking about the person, the spirit, or whatever I'm doing. But you're reasoning, you're talking to yourself. Ego's been talking to you for your whole lifetime. Your higher self, can talk to yourself. And here it is in chapter 20. The body is the ego's idol. The belief in sin made flesh and then projected outward. So we have the image in our mind about the body, but then we believe the body did something wrong in the Garden of Eden, and that we projected and made real the body. We projected the body outward. This produces what seems to be a wall of flesh around the mind, keeping it prisoner in a tiny spot of space and time, beholden unto death, and given but an instant in which to sigh and grieve and die in honor of its master. Oh man, that's chapter 20. Belief in sin made flesh. Now what happens though in the enlightening awakening process, the body actually becomes embodied with this light and love of God. Everything is transmuted. The old self is no longer there. It's called transmuting. It's not the word transform. You actually are different. You are, the little self is ego. The Christ, Buddha, God self is totally different. Totally different. Then here's chapter 31 where he talks about flesh. You see the flesh or recognize the spirit. That's why I'm just trying to bring back home again about this advanced forgiveness, where we think of the person as spirit, and it's huge. All you got to do is think of them as spirit. You are spirit, whole, pure, and innocent, all is forgiven and released. We don't have to believe it. We don't believe it till later, but it's huge to think it and say it silently about people. You see the flesh or recognize the spirit. There's no compromise between the two. If one is real, the other must be fake. For what is real denies its opposite. There's no choice in vision but this. What you decide in this determines all you see and think is real and hold as true. On this one choice does all your world depend. For here have you established what you are, as flesh or spirit in your own belief. If you choose flesh, you never will escape the body as your own reality, for you have chosen that you want it so. But choose the spirit, and all heaven bends to touch your eyes and bless your holy sight, that you may see the world of flesh no more, except to heal and comfort and to bless. So like now, let's take two people on the screen and practice Jesus and advanced forgiveness. You can do a couple things. One is, like, I'm just looking at Barbara. I look past Barbara's form. There's this like space or air, clear light. That spirit, God, clear light, is here now. I just look past her form because Jesus says that in the Course. Look past the body, beyond the body, to the spirit, the light, clear light that's there. Or you can say all of it to the person, or say to them silently, you are spirit, whole, pure, and innocent, always forgiven and released. Now, also, we're going to do this on two people. But since we're talking about journaling, see, when different times when the Great Ray will download in my mind, I know what happens is images start to appear in my mind, one right after the other, where I'm to practice advanced forgiveness on. I'm thinking of them as spirit, like lickety split, image, practice an image. You could even think back of the jobs you've had, relationships you've had, family members that you've been irritated with. Write their names down. Just go down the list and practice advanced forgiveness. It's that simple. Because ultimately, your life's going to flash before your eyes. And in that flash Holy Spirit's going to present all these images from your childhood, your parents, your siblings, your neighbors, family members, your schooling, then your jobs, then your more jobs or whatever, your loved ones, your every relationship you've ever had. Your practice, it's huge for you to do this. Now, what you're doing, see, you're going from false perception to true perception. And so I went and looked for that and found these two wonderful paragraphs about projection makes perception. Because whatever I'm agreeing with in my mind, and that's what Jesus said here, what I hide in my mind and don't open up. No, that wasn't it. We're the world. Yeah, the world. Here. This is it. This is the world is a witness to your state of mind. I want to read that. That is the world is in clarification. No, those two things I want to read. The world forgiven can, no. The world is a witness to your state of mind, the outside picture of an inward condition. As a man thinketh, so does he perceive. Now, wow. When I found that, I went, what? This is page of, this is in chapter, he's saying it's in, I wrote that it's in clarification of terms. See, I made these notes so I could read this. Clarification of terms, number 4, true perception - knowledge. Here's the first 2 sentences. The world you see is an illusion of the world. God did not create it, for what he creates must be eternal as himself. Yet there's nothing in the world you see that will endure forever. I know this isn't exactly the part. This is the other part. The other second thing I want to talk about, wanted to make sure I talk about that forgiveness. True perception has many names. So that's where we're at. We'll find that other thing. Sorry, I apologize. What he's saying here, because nothing in the world can endure it, that's why it's an illusion of a world. The body's eyes are therefore not the means by which the real world can be seen. For the illusions that they look upon must lead to more illusions. So what you're doing as you bring these images and situations to mind and practice advanced forgiveness on them, what's happening, you're developing, you're opening your third eye, your Christ vision, your Buddha vision, that has to open. That's an actual, that's how, where Christ vision comes from, is in your mind, there's a third eye here. He says here, the body's eye are not the way you're going to see it. The one correction possible for false perception must be true perception. It will not endure, but for the time it lasts, it comes to heal. So now he says here, for true perception is a remedy with many names. And I want to share this with you because it was so huge. So when he says true perception, what he says is that's another name for forgiveness, salvation, atonement, true perception, all are one. So it's how you're changing from false perception to true perception. Any one of these four things that you're doing will do it. They are the one beginning, he says, with the end to lead to oneness far beyond themselves. There you go. Ha. So that's clarification of terms. I want to get that there's the four. Because whatever we're thinking in our mind, it gets projected, but we're then perceiving, meaning observing. So we either looking at something falsely, whatever we project, or we're looking at it truly by thinking about what our state of mind is. Am I coming from the Christ Buddha self, my God self? Is that what I'm choosing to come from? And let's see where. Okay, then. I'm sorry, I really wanted to find that. Where was it? Here it is. I found it. Chapter 21, Introduction, paragraph 1. And the name of that whole section is Reason and Perception. Projection makes perception. So picture, whatever my mind's thinking, that's what I project out there, then that's what I perceive. Projection makes perception. The world you see is what you gave it, nothing more than that. But though it is no more than that, it is not less. Therefore, to you, it is important. So whatever I'm projecting, yeah, it's important. It is the witness to your state of mind, the outside picture of an inward condition. And I love this sentence. As a man thinketh, so does he perceive. So there you go. Boy, that made it simple, didn't it? So what am I thinking? That's why I ask you first, what your mood is telling you. If you're anything but peaceful, loving, then what was I thinking when I got that feeling of irritated or angry? Then to journal that to practice forgiveness on, because I've projected that. I thought it first in my mind. It happened so fast. We can't piece it together. So I'm asking you to slow it all down and sit with this, and it'll come to you what you were thinking. Because the mind just thinking these thoughts, one right after the other, so fast. And ego, my split mind that I'm not in control of, is agreeing with it. And before I know it, I'm thinking along the same way. So as a man thinketh, so does he perceive. Therefore, seek not to change the world, but choose to change your mind about the world. Perception is a result, not a cause. Now, I thought that was cool too. I had to sit with that. Perception is a result, not a cause. Well, the cause is my God, Christ, Buddha mind agreed with the thought that ego had. That's the cause, my thinking. And then that's projected outward. And off I go then on that merry-go-round, thought, feeling of judgment, usually until I get off the merry-go-round and think and choose again. Everything looked upon with vision is healed and holy. Nothing perceived without it means anything. Oh man. Nothing, nothing perceived without it means anything. And where there's no meaning, there's chaos. Damnation is your judgment on yourself, and this you will project upon the world. See it as damned, and all you see is what you did to hurt the Son of God. Whoa. Now, see, we're talking here even our good and bad judgments. And we're not being paranoid here, but you're just as often as you can thinking about or reason or sit or contemplating, what am I thinking? What am I saying? What am I doing? Like, oh, so you're bringing darkness to the light. And then I want to read some other neat things that I found. Ooh, this is page 4, page 3. Okay, this is in chapter 14, section 7, sharing perception with Holy Spirit. Now, I don't think I've read this. What do you want? Light or darkness? Knowledge or ignorance are yours, but not both. Opposites must be brought together, not kept apart. That's what I'm wanting to, I forgot to mention. What you're doing when you bring the darkness to the light, you're bringing the two things together, side by side, which is what he's talking about. Opposites must be brought together, not kept apart. For their separation is only in your mind, and they are reconciled by union as you are. So when you put your dark thought next to the holy thought, and you contemplate and sit with that, what will happen naturally, the light is going to dissolve the darkness. It's going to become a truth to you that your brother is spirit. I want to change how I'm thinking about my brother. You're going to say to yourself, I'm going to work on this. For their separation is only in your mind. I wrote that. In union, I've already said that. In union, everything that is not real must disappear, for truth is union. As darkness disappears in light, so ignorance fades away when knowledge dawns. Perception is the medium by which ignorance is brought to knowledge. Yet the perception must be without deceit, for otherwise it becomes the messenger of ignorance rather than a helper in the search for truth. That's a big deal. He talks about deceit and deception, that ego wants us to lie to ourselves, not be honest, that I'm actually feeling this way about somebody. Now, granted, there's times that you're very holy. We're just, like Jesus says, or bring every dark thought, all your secret sins and hidden hates to me. Don't hold one back. The search for truth is but here we go. The search for truth is but the honest searching out of everything that interferes with truth. Truth is, he's got that in italics. It can neither be lost nor sought nor found. It is there, wherever you are, being with you, within you. Truth is within you. Yet it can be recognized or unrecognized, real or false to you. If you hide it, it becomes unreal to you because you hid it and surrounded, it with fear. Wow. Well, see, all this is so much of it's unconscious until you sit with Holy Spirit and bring these secret sins and hidden hates to the light. Then you start to recognize, oh yeah, I have been doing that. Oh yeah, agreeing with that. Under each cornerstone of fear on which you have erected your insane system of belief, the truth lies hidden. Yet you cannot know this, for by hiding truth in fear, you see no reason to believe that the more you look at fear, the less you see it, and the clearer what it conceals becomes. Because he's saying, yeah, look at that. It says he wants you to look at your fears. Bring them to the light, to Holy Spirit. Oh no. So let's see. So we don't want to do spiritual bypass. We don't want to lie to ourselves about these times that we're agreeing with the egoic mind. Okay, let's see. You're developing an alertness to also how you feel. You don't want to overlook your feelings because they're the barometer of what you've been thinking. And you also don't want to beat yourself up about this because this is a process that happens over time. And as we've talked about before, you remember when we never even realized that we were thinking that these thoughts were going on in our mind. We were agreeing with them without recognizing that we could look at these thoughts or not agree with them. So it's huge what you're doing, and you're making progress or you wouldn't be here. I just want you to make that list and work on healing these thoughts of separation from these brothers. Now we're close to the end here. Anyone got a thought or comment that they want to share? We're still recording. I sure appreciate all it. Oh, we're going to practice two people as soon as Gonzalo says something. We'll practice forgiveness. And Barbara's okay. Barbara, go first, Gonzalo.
Okay. This, what you're talking about, is the lesson I'm doing today is lesson 107. Truth will correct all errors in the mind. It says, what can correct illusions but the truth? And what are illusions, but what are errors but illusions which remain unrecognized for what they are? When truth has entered, errors disappear. They merely vanish, leaving not a trace by which to remember. They are gone because without belief they have no life, and so they disappear to nothingness, returning whence they came.
That's what we're talking about, Barbara. That's wonderful. Truth. And the truth is are we flesh, a body, or spirit, love, light? Oh, yeah, that's the bottom line. Jesus keeps hitting it from all these different angles, doesn't he?
Yep.
Congratulations. Thank you, Barbara. Yes.
And one other question I was going to ask you last week. I heard a podcast and they said that maybe we can have a spiritual ego. Is that we can make a spiritual ego? Is that true?
No, that's transmutation. The ego is one thing, and your holy Buddha, Christ nature is being unveiled to you. That's why it looks like the ego's being changed. But no, because now see, everybody can have their own belief, but that's not how I see it at all. No, because you're unveiling your true nature, which is Christ, Buddha, God nature. And ego's its own, and in the course somewhere, people even comment to make friends with the ego. No. There's a sentence in the course. The ego says he goes from suspiciousness to viciousness. And it's your death that he has in mind to be crudely real. But I'm not, Jesus says this, I'm just repeating. But the thing is, we're not making friends with it, and you're not, in my understanding. But that's what's called transmutation. That's the Dzogchen believes this too.
I didn't think so, but she says maybe we can't make a spiritual ego. So I don't know. But yeah, but that's in a podcast, everybody has their own opinions.
Well, yeah, but it made you think about it, didn't it?
Yeah.
That's good. But I'm glad you brought this up. Now, yeah, because the ego is a false deal that doesn't even exist. That sucker doesn't even exist. And what you're developing are the virtues of Christ and Buddha that are your natural self, loving, gentle, happy, joyous. Those are your natural aspects, virtues. They're nothing to do with ego.
Okay, got it, thanks.
Mhm. Yes, Gonzalo.
Hi, thank you, Glenda. And yeah, I think the confusion can be like the Holy Spirit and Jesus's belief system that they're trying to teach us. We can practice while we're still in ego, but they don't overlap. So
Wow, well
the
put.
beautiful thing in the power and the omnipresence and the unconditional nature of God's presence is that we can practice that belief while still being an ego.
Good
And
point.
I think that's where maybe they confuse that ego and spirit can be reconciled, because they can't at all. Many of us try for a while because we have such difficulty letting go of the ego.
Wow.
But I'm really glad you brought the subject about openness and deep honesty to the spirit, because this is something that I feel very, very few course groups and spiritual practices in general deal with, because it's scary. Let's face it, the ego has been in charge of this world because we've created these secret identities with secrets and self-hatreds and, dirty, shameful secrets that we can share and some we can't. The ego loves the fact that we have our individual secrets. And until we expose those, when I say expose them to the Holy Spirit and Jesus with deep, open-hearted honesty. And that's something that I didn't do for so long. It's so essential. They're talking about exposure, not in the confessional sense, like religiously we knew confession, and the confession just made us feel more unworthy and more guilty and more shameful. It kind of compounded the effect of the ego. What I feel Jesus and Holy Spirit is sharing, that the exposure is to the Holy Spirit. Very true that on the path, it's very true that it's very helpful for us to have a mighty companion along the way, that we feel open, that we feel trusting enough to share, because I think the ego investment is so deep and we cannot underestimate the depths of it, that we need another physical body like us, like an ego, to see what we're saying that we find so difficult to share, that we maybe never shared with anyone, even our close partners in relationship, and just acknowledge that it's okay, you're innocent. You're innocent.
Yes.
That is so essential on the path, because again, we emphasize how deep the ego conditioning goes, and the secrets, the private thoughts, the people pleasing, all of that serves to prop up the God of the ego. And so I'm really glad you mentioned that. I put the comment on the chat about sex, how sex is immense guilt for most of us that grew up in this culture, at least. We go through puberty, you have to deal with, you deal with little boys, we deal with wet dream, and girls with menstruation, and then masturbation and all this stuff. And no way. And magically, this stuff is supposed to not have an effect on us when you can't even talk about it, and maybe, younger people are a little bit more open with that nowadays, but there's still a degree of overall of sex being very compartmentalized, to where people don't really talk about it, especially in relationships, and I understand you can't share with everybody, because some people it wouldn't be helpful to do that. But in general, when it comes to our shameful secrets, our dark areas, of specialness, man, I'm glad you addressed that, because I don't think we can hear that enough. I think if we're really going to make the jump to go deeper into our truth, we have to walk into that dark room where the ego doesn't want us to go, and realize, hey, we're doing this to cleanse and purify and drop that ego identity, which has held all these cover-ups in power. And so we can reveal, really exposing the true self as a spirit. So we cannot, it's tough. It is very difficult to do that. But I can tell you with absolute certainty, it is so worth it. And again, I emphasize, it's not about confessioning and blurting out, confession. That wouldn't be helpful. And that serves to bolster the ego, really. But what we do is allow Holy Spirit and Jesus to lead us through that process. And, if we're led to share, therapist, journal,
Right.
a friend, partner. Yeah, that's the
That's
thing, is
what
that
I
we allow the share, allow the sharing to be, allow the transparency to be led through us.
Oh, stay there, Gonzalo. I'm glad you brought this up. Yes, we may be led to psychotherapy because what we're talking about here can be addictions. And addictions can be all kinds of things, from alcohol, food, anything, drugs, sex, anything, may need psychotherapy help, because as a person opens the door to their heart, opens the door, they need support.
Yeah.
And those are professionals
Yeah.
that could help guide and give a person there besides the journal. Now, journaling, what I want to share too is, we're not talking about when you, what I'm talking about is, it's, we know we're judging a person or situation. We don't have to go into the whole story of the deal, because that's ego.
Yeah.
You're just identifying these thoughts that have been laying on your heart or laying on you, that you just shove away and think, oh, that was just horrible. I treated somebody like that. But I mean, you know, a thought came to mind the other day, even in high school or grammar school, we were practicing basketball in the gym, and I threw a ball. You know how you throw a basketball and it hit a person right in the face. And I never apologized to that person, you know? So really, see, I felt bad about that, and that came up. So I just pictured the person, you know, I don't remember who they are, but my intention, our intention is to relieve ourselves of any mistakes or things we think we've done, and have a light heart about it, and recognize the holiness that everyone is. And Holy Spirit, you are innocent. These are thoughts in our mind that we've held on to and keep, the ego says to us. And yeah, so we might need help to do these things. So please, if anybody's, whoever's listening to the video, I highly believe in psychotherapy. Before 2004, thereabout, when I recognized I was unhappy, I was in psychotherapy, and even took a med for it. You know, you do what you need to do to help calm this mind when it starts grating on you about judgment of what a person they think they've done or not done, right?
Yeah.
And even that Lama Surya Das talks about, he to this day does psychotherapy, because he is, can you imagine being a pastor or a lama where you're actually helping people come through their difficulties? And the Buddhists believe you take on the suffering of the people that they're helping.
I can
They
feel
bring it
yeah.
in and then exhale it out. I mean, maybe sometimes they can't exhale it out. So it's like, how do you live a life? What we're trying to do is live our Buddha, Christ, God life, while integrate it to walk around in this world. And ultimately, when you awaken, you're not going to give up anything. You're not giving up food, driving, watching TV, whatever you like to watch on TV. None of this changes. You still carry water and chop wood, like they say. None of this changes, but what changes is how you think of the person as spirit while you're communicating with people and doing whatever you're doing. Nothing changes. It's how we walk around using our hands, voice, ears to help our brothers.
Yeah, so
Go ahead,
true.
Gonzalo.
So true that again, big time Sarah. Thank you. We need to hear this, because there's a big confusion between the content of what Jesus is teaching us and the form, how it looks, you know. And a lot of people, you know, we get fixated. And again, this is, if you want to call the ego trying to pretend to be spiritual, then we get fixated on routines and my dress and my diet and blah, blah, blah. And again, it's all of that can be helpful if we turn over those decisions to the Holy Spirit. And that therein lies the day-to-day, moment-to-moment practice. But when it becomes about, you know, I'm going to give up TV, or I'm going to give up sex, or I'm going to give up booze, if that level of impulsivity absolutely comes from the ego, absolutely. when we just up and pound our feet, I'm gonna drop something because I want to be, that is coming from the ego. When we get led to drop whatever habit, right? That feels completely different. I can't tell you exactly what it feels like, because you have to have the experience to know. But it doesn't feel anything like impulsive. Okay, I got to do this for myself. Which self? I got to do this to be a better who? Be better or what? Be a better person, be a better man, be a better. And those are all based on ego concept of seeking approval. So it's so important that any changes, any decisions that we run them through the Holy Spirit, Jesus, whomever you pray to ask for guidance. And
Well
we will know. We will
Well
know
put, Gonzalo,
where the
because
thought comes from.
if we're not careful, ego just says, stop doing this, and it can be a horrible experience. Good point, Gonzalo.
Yeah.
He's always gentle. There'll be a transition. That's why with psychotherapy, they help you. There's a plan. That's why there's this 12-step plan for alcoholism and drug addiction. These things work because they incorporate God into them, and you can incorporate the Course and whatever other true practices people are practicing. But well put. We're not in the business of cold turkey and anything. That's ego. Just right. Oh yeah, that's not loving. This would be a transition. Now, granted, you might be able to give it up sooner because now you're turning things over to Holy Spirit, or it may be easier, or it may not be. Sometimes some of these big things get resisted, and you just do the best you can. If you can't let it go all at once, or you're, just do gradual and seek guidance, like Gonzalo's talking about here, family, friends, or the therapist, if you don't want to talk about it with your family or friends, because but we want to be careful not to get down in the story, beating the story up. It's true or it's not true.
That's so important.
Spirit, or because ego wants you to rehash all. I should have said that.
Analyze.
No, we're not talking about that. No,
that is
Course.
That is so important. And thank you. I'll hang up now, but that is so important because, again, ego snuck in with me about being so militant about the Course that I was closed off to other things for so long until I decided to go off the deep end, in my relationship, or really turn over a lot of those dark areas of specialness. And it's difficult as hell. But then, once you do that, you'll find, again, therapy, highly recommended if they help us change our belief system about who we are. They don't have to be necessarily a spiritual teacher per se, but if it shows us a different belief system other than the one that we were taught, that got us in the mess in the first place. So all of those things is just staying in that place of openness and asking, and the sincere willingness to listen will lead us to whatever changes we have to make. So thank you. We cannot hear this topic enough, really.
Wow. Thanks, Gonzalo. Appreciate it so much for your input. Thank you so much. Any other thoughts or things, Barbara? You got something?
Yeah, when Gonzalo was talking about how deep the ego goes down, I was wondering, can we bring baggage from our ancestral past with us? Is that down deep in us, or is this our own ego ourselves?
You mean prior lifetimes? If you
Yes.
believe in, yes, it's all
Could they
stored.
come, and that's what you could be feeling too.
Oh, yes. Yes, that's what I believe, is that all this is stored in the unconscious mind. But anything that's showing up in this lifetime, people that are irritating or whatever, they represent the same people that you were irritated or upset with or were at war with in another lifetime. So as you heal and bring to the light any arguments or hates or secret sins, that's representing all lifetimes. And see, as you bring it to the surface, then Holy Spirit can go into the unconscious mind and go into all those other judgments from all the other lifetimes and heal them. We can't do that. He does that. So that's why it's important you're bringing these things up into your conscious mind and asking him to help you. It's huge. I don't even know the magnitude of it. I just know it works, but it's beyond the magnitude. It goes into all the work we've lived. What is it? Billion years each. These are tens of thousands of lifetimes we've been turning over. Been bugs or all kinds of things. And you don't have to believe in reincarnation. Just think about all these secret sins and secret hidden hates that the ego mind automatically said and we agreed with. And that all gets stored in the unconscious mind. That's all, every thought we think, Jesus says it, there's only one mind. Every thought I think is, somewhere the sentence, I forget. Every thought I think is about me, to me, about me, for me. It's all stored in, yeah. So that's why I'm asking us to be aware of what we're thinking, saying, and doing. And do the best you can. And you're slowing down the mind, so then you're more aware of the thoughts. And then you can release it. And like when I, at the end of the day, I try to remember, think back through the people I saw that day. Did I think of them as God? And I'll go back to them in my mind and say God to them. So at the end of each day, you can clean up even judgments of that day, thinking of people as bodies and not the spirit they are. Because it's very, very difficult. I don't even do it all the time. When I'm talking to somebody, remembering that they're God, I'm talking to them and they're a form standing right there, right? So it's later I have to remember their spirit. So let's take and do 2 people here on the screen and practice advanced forgiveness.
Thanks a lot.
Yes, you're welcome, Barbara. Thank you, honey, for those questions. Take 2 people and say, all of it, or you are spirit, whole, pure, and innocent, all is forgiven and released. And there's so few of us to do them all. Right now. And see how easy that is? Just takes a few seconds for every person. And then to yourself, say all of it, or say, I am a mortal spirit. This body is a false image and has nothing to do with what I am. Practice on yourself. Okay. Now, any other thoughts or comments before I stop the recording? Okay. Thank you. Barbara, God. Nance, God. Sally, God. Gonzalo, God. Leon, God. Shaban, God. Francis, God. Teresa, God. Debbie, God. Thank you. I want to clarify again, don't take this out of context. First, in the awakening process, you got to first awake to that you're a Christ and a Buddha. Then after that, you'll realize, hold it. There's only God. There's only God. That's all there is. There's only God. We don't have to approve or agree with people's actions, but we want to, with the spirit of Jesus and A Course in Miracles, that people are divine, holy Christ, holy Buddhas. They just don't remember it, just aren't aware of it yet. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording.
Thank you.